The Zephyrian research station hummed with nervous energy as Commander Kextar paced behind the observation deck's reinforced windows. Below, in the containment field, the most dangerous predator from their homeworld prowled restlessly. The Vorthak stood nearly 3 meters tall at the shoulder, its midnight black fur rippling over muscles that could crush steel. 6 legs moved in perfect coordination, each paw equipped with retractable claws longer than a Zephyrian's arm. The creature's 3 heads swayed independently, each mouth filled with teeth designed to tear through the toughest armor. "Are you certain about this demonstration, Commander?" asked Dr. Velana, her translator device crackling with tension. The xenobiologist's 4 arms trembled slightly as she adjusted her recording equipment. "The humans requested to observe our most dangerous fauna, but surely we could start with something less lethal?" Kextar's tail flicked with annoyance. "The Human Federation's diplomatic team specifically asked to see our apex predator. They claim their species needs to understand what we face on our homeworld before approving the mining rights treaty." He gestured toward the heavily shielded viewing area where the human delegation waited. "Besides, the containment field is military grade. Nothing can breach it." The human group consisted of 5 adults and, surprisingly, 1 small offspring. The child appeared to be roughly 8 cycles old by human standards, with light brown fur covering his head and large blue eyes that seemed to absorb everything around him. Ambassador Chen spoke quietly with her team while the boy pressed his face against the observation window, his breath fogging the transparent aluminum. "Tommy, stay close," the ambassador said, placing a protective hand on the child's shoulder. "We're guests here, remember?" The boy nodded, but continued staring at the Vorthak with fascination rather than fear. This puzzled Dr. Velana greatly. Every sentient species they had encountered showed immediate terror when faced with a Vorthak. Even through protective barriers, most aliens required sedatives to remain conscious in the creature's presence. Yet this small human seemed almost excited? "Initiating demonstration protocol," announced the station's AI. The containment field shimmered as a mechanical prey analog was lowered into the enclosure. The Vorthak's 3 heads immediately focused on the movement, 6 eyes gleaming with predatory intelligence. What happened next was a blur of violence that lasted mere seconds. The Vorthak launched itself forward with impossible speed, all 3 heads striking simultaneously. The prey analog, built to withstand Zephyrian military weapons, was torn apart like paper. The creature's roar shook the observation deck, causing several human adults to step backward instinctively. Tommy remained pressed against the window, his small hands flat against the surface. "Wow," he whispered. Commander Kextar noted the humans' reactions with satisfaction. Finally, a species that understood the dangers his people faced daily. "As you can see, the Vorthak is why our expansion has been limited to 3 star systems. These creatures have made surface operations on our homeworld nearly impossible. We lose dozens of mining teams each." A loud crash interrupted his explanation. Every head turned toward the sound. A maintenance panel had fallen near the containment controls. The impact triggered an emergency safety protocol, and with a sound like breaking glass, the containment field flickered and died. "Emergency containment breach," the AI announced. "All personnel evacuate immediately." The Vorthak lifted its 3 heads, tasting freedom in the air, its 6 eyes fixed on the observation deck, and for a moment that stretched like eternity, predator and prey regarded each other through the now unprotected window. Dr. Velana's scientific training warred with her survival instincts. The window was reinforced, but not designed to hold against a Vorthak's full assault. "Everyone to the emergency exits," she shouted, her 4 arms gesturing frantically toward the escape routes. The human adults moved quickly but calmly, their military-trained reflexes evident. Ambassador Chen scooped up Tommy, but the boy struggled in her arms. "Wait!" he called out. Look at his ears! Chen paused, despite every instinct screaming at her to run. The Vorthak had indeed moved closer to the window, but its posture seemed different. The creature's 3 heads were tilted slightly, and its ears, which had been flat against its skulls during the violent demonstration, now stood upright and forward. "Tommy, we need to leave now," Chen said firmly. "But Mom, he's curious about us too," the boy insisted. "Look at his tail." Against all logic, Dr. Velana found herself observing the Vorthak's body language. The creature's tail, which should have been lashing with aggression, was held in a neutral position. Its 6 legs were planted firmly but not in an attack crouch. Most remarkably, the Vorthak was making a sound she had never heard before, a low, rumbling note that seemed almost questioning. "Impossible," Commander Kextar breathed. "Vorthaks don't vocalize except when attacking or claiming territory." The creature took another step closer to the window, all 3 heads now focused intently on the small human. Tommy squirmed until his mother set him down, then walked directly to the window. The movement should have triggered an immediate attack response, but instead, the Vorthak lowered all 3 heads to Tommy's eye level. "Tommy, please," Ambassador Chen whispered, her hand hovering near her sidearm. The boy placed both hands on the window and made soft clicking sounds with his tongue. To everyone's amazement, the Vorthak responded with similar sounds, though much deeper and more resonant. The creature's massive form relaxed further, settling into a position that could only be described as playful? "This is unprecedented," Dr. Velana murmured, her scientific excitement overriding her fear. "No documented case exists of a Vorthak showing non-aggressive behavior toward any alien species." "How is that small human not terrified?" Kextar demanded. "Our own trained warriors require psychological conditioning before facing a Vorthak." Tommy pressed his forehead against the window and spoke in the gentle tone humans reserved for their domesticated animals. "Hey there, beautiful. You're not scary at all, are you? You're just curious about the new people." The largest of the Vorthak's 3 heads mimicked the boy's posture, pressing against the window from the other side. The other 2 heads swayed gently, continuing the soft vocalizations that seemed to be some form of communication. Ambassador Chen slowly approached her son, her diplomatic training warring with her maternal instincts. "How do you know it won't hurt us, Tommy? Same way you can tell the difference between a dog that wants to play and one that wants to bite," the boy explained matter-of-factly. "His body is all wrong for hunting right now, and his eyes are soft, not hard like when he was hunting that robot thing." Dr. Velana's translator struggled with the human concepts, but she found herself studying the Vorthak with new understanding. Could it be that her people had misinterpreted the creature's behavior all along? Every encounter had been in hostile circumstances, mining operations, territorial disputes, or capture attempts. Perhaps the Vorthak's aggression was defensive rather than purely predatory. The maintenance team arrived and began emergency repairs on the containment system, but their presence caused the Vorthak to shift nervously. The creature's ears flattened slightly, and it took a step back from the window. "Wait!" Tommy called out to the repair crew. "You're scaring him. Can you just go slower? He was just starting to trust us." The Zephyrian technicians looked to their commander for guidance. Kextar found himself in an impossible situation. Protocol demanded immediate recontainment. But the scene unfolding before him challenged everything his people believed about their world's apex predator. "Proceed with minimum disruption," he ordered finally. The repair work continued at a more measured pace, and gradually the Vorthak relaxed again. Tommy resumed his gentle conversation with the creature, describing his journey to the station and asking questions that, impossibly, seemed to receive appropriate responses through the creature's body language and vocalizations. "This changes everything we know about Vorthak behavior," Dr. Velana whispered into her recording device. The creature is demonstrating complex social responses, advanced communication attempts, and what appears to be genuine curiosity rather than predatory assessment. As the containment field shimmered back to life, separating the species once again, the Vorthak made one final gesture that left the entire observation deck in stunned silence. The creature pressed its central head against the barrier and slowly closed all 6 eyes in what could only be interpreted as a gesture of trust and farewell. Tommy placed his hand on the window one last time. "Bye, friend. Maybe I'll see you again someday." The implications of what they had witnessed were staggering. If humans could somehow communicate with Vorthaks, if the creatures weren't purely aggressive killers but complex social beings, then everything the Zephyrians knew about their homeworld would need to be reconsidered. Commander Kextar turned to Ambassador Chen with the expression of bewilderment. "How did your offspring know the Vorthak wasn't dangerous?" Chen smiled, her hand resting protectively on Tommy's shoulder. "Humans have a long history of befriending creatures other species consider monsters. Sometimes the scariest-looking animals just need someone to see past their fangs and claws to the intelligence underneath." As the human delegation was escorted to their quarters, Dr. Velana remained behind, staring at the now docile Vorthak. The creature had settled into what she was beginning to recognize as a resting position rather than a hunting crouch. For the first time in her career studying her homeworld's deadliest predator, she wondered if they had been asking the wrong questions all along. The research station's corridors buzzed with excited conversations as word spread of the unprecedented encounter. In her private lab, Dr. Velana began composing the most important research proposal of her career. If a human child could establish communication with a Vorthak in minutes, what might be possible with proper study and preparation? The night cycle found the station's crew in a state of barely contained excitement and confusion. Everything they thought they knew about their most feared predator had been challenged by a small human's fearless curiosity and instinctive understanding of animal behavior. In the human quarters, Tommy slept peacefully, dreaming of 3-headed creatures that purred like massive cats and played like puppies. Meanwhile, in the containment area, the Vorthak rested quietly, occasionally lifting its heads to look toward the observation deck as if hoping for another visit from the strange, brave little alien who had seen it as a friend rather than a monster. Dr. Velana hadn't slept since the incident 3 days ago. Her laboratory now resembled a war room, with holographic displays showing every recorded second of the interaction between the human child and their Vorthak. She had watched the footage hundreds of times, analyzing micro-expressions, body language patterns, and vocal frequencies. Each viewing revealed new details that challenged decades of established xenobiology. "The neural scans are remarkable," reported Dr. Jexel, her research partner, as he materialized the latest data in the air between them. "The human child's brain activity during the encounter shows patterns we've never recorded in any other species." The holographic brain imaging rotated slowly, highlighting specific regions in pulsing colors. "Look here," Jexel continued, pointing to the frontal cortex area. "Where other species show massive stress responses and fear activation when confronting a Vorthak, the human child's brain lit up in areas associated with play behavior and social bonding." Velana's 4 hands moved across her control interface, pulling up comparative data from their species database. "Cross-reference this with our files on known pack-bonding species. How do humans compare to Cantorian wolf packs or Meridian hive minds?" The results were astounding. Human pack bonding responses exceeded those of every documented social species by factors that seemed almost impossible. But more intriguingly, humans appeared capable of extending these bonding behaviors across species barriers, something no other known intelligence could achieve. "There's more," Jexel said, his excitement causing his bioluminescent patches to flicker rapidly. I've been analyzing the audio recordings of the child's vocalizations. He wasn't just making random sounds. He was attempting to mimic the Vorthak's communication patterns in real time. A soft chime indicated someone requesting entry to the laboratory. Commander Kextar stepped through the doorway, his usual military composure replaced by visible agitation. "Report, Doctor. The Council is demanding answers about what happened here. They want to know if humans pose some kind of threat we haven't identified." Velana's tail swished thoughtfully. "Commander, I believe we've been asking the wrong questions about both species. May I request permission to conduct a more comprehensive study?" "Explain." The doctor activated a three-dimensional model of the research station, highlighting the containment area. "We need to understand how humans perceive and interact with what they consider dangerous fauna. I've reviewed their cultural databases. Humans have a documented history of domesticating apex predators on their homeworld. Creatures that hunted their ancestors became their companions." Kextar's eyes widened. "You're suggesting humans could domesticate Vorthaks?" "I'm suggesting humans might not see Vorthaks as monsters at all. To them, our most feared predator might simply be a large, unfamiliar animal with potential for friendship." The implications hung heavy in the air. Their mining restrictions, their limited expansion, their entire civilization's development, all constrained by creatures that humans might view as oversized pets. A communication request flashed on the main display. Ambassador Chen's face appeared, with young Tommy visible in the background, drawing pictures with remarkable artistic skill for his age. "Dr. Velana," Chen began, "my son has been asking about his new friend constantly. He's drawn 17 pictures of the Vorthak and wants to know if he can visit again, with proper safety protocols, of course." Tommy looked up from his artwork and waved at the screen. "Hi, Dr. Velana. I made a picture of when all three of his heads were listening to me. Did you know each head has a different personality? The middle one is the leader, but the left one is really curious about new things." Velana and Kextar exchanged glances. The child was making behavioral observations that aligned with preliminary research theories that had never been tested due to the dangers involved. "Tommy," Velana said carefully, "how did you know the creature had different personalities?" The boy set down his drawing tablet and looked directly at the camera with the serious expression children sometimes wore when explaining something obvious to adults. "Same way you can tell with people. Their eyes move differently, they focus on different things, and they have different ways of tilting their heads when they're thinking." He picked up another drawing, one showing the Vorthak in what appeared to be a relaxed, playful position. The right head is the cautious one. It kept watching the doors in case someone dangerous came in. The middle head was interested in talking to me. And the left head just wanted to understand why I wasn't scared. "And why weren't you scared?" Kextar interjected. Tommy shrugged with the casual wisdom of childhood. "Because being big doesn't mean being mean. My great-uncle Jake had 3 dogs that were bigger than me, and they were the gentlest animals ever. Size is just size. It's what someone does with it that matters." After the communication ended, the laboratory fell silent, except for the humming of equipment. Dr. Velana realized she was witnessing something unprecedented in xenobiological research. First contact between two species that might naturally understand each other, despite evolving on worlds thousands of light years apart. "Commander," she said slowly, "I request permission to design a controlled interaction study. If humans can safely interface with Vorthaks, the implications for our homeworld's development could be revolutionary." Kexatar's military mind was already processing the strategic possibilities. "What do you need?" "First, comprehensive behavioral analysis of both species. Second, consultation with human-animal behavior experts. And third—" She hesitated, knowing her next request would sound insane. "Permission to allow supervised interaction between volunteer humans and our Vorthak." The commander's shocked silence stretched for several moments. "Doctor, you're proposing to deliberately expose alien civilians to our planet's apex predator." "I'm proposing to test whether our apex predator is actually just a misunderstood social creature that's been reacting defensively to our fear and aggression." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent alert from the containment facility. They rushed to the observation deck to find the Vorthak displaying behavior that contradicted every established pattern in their databases. The creature was creating sounds, not the aggressive roars they knew, but complex melodic patterns. More remarkably, it was arranging objects in its enclosure. Pieces of the destroyed prey analog had been carefully positioned in geometric patterns that suggested deliberate artistic intent. "How long has it been doing this?" Velana demanded of the monitoring technician. "Since this morning, Doctor. It started shortly after the human child's communication ended. We initially thought it was trying to build hunting traps, but the patterns serve no predatory function." Tommy's observation about the three heads having different personalities suddenly took on new significance. They weren't just watching a predator, they were watching a sapient being expressing creativity and possibly even emotional response to the previous day's interaction. "Contact the human delegation immediately," Kextar ordered. "If the child can communicate with this creature, we need to understand how." Within an hour, the humans had returned to the observation deck. Tommy pressed against the window again, and immediately the Vorthak's three heads turned toward him with what could only be described as recognition and pleasure. The boy studied the arranged objects and clapped his hands together. "You made art. That's beautiful." The Vorthak's response was immediate, a series of vocalizations that seemed almost musical. Tommy listened carefully, then attempted to replicate the sounds. His human vocal cords couldn't match the depth and range, but his intent was clear. "He's trying to teach me his song," Tommy explained to the fascinated observers. "Each head sings a different part. It's like a choir, but one person doing all the voices." Dr. Velana was frantically recording every detail. "Ambassador Chen, I must ask, are all human children capable of this kind of interspecies communication?" Chen smiled proudly. "Not all, but many have an instinctive ability to connect with animals. We call it empathy. Tommy's always been especially gifted at understanding non-verbal communication." "Empathy," Velana repeated, her translator struggling with the concept. "The ability to understand another being's emotional state?" "More than understand," Chen explained. "The ability to feel what they feel, to respond to their needs, and to communicate care and friendship across any barrier." The implications struck the research team like a physical blow. Humans possessed a natural ability that their technology couldn't replicate, the capacity to establish emotional bridges with completely alien minds. It wasn't superior intellect or advanced technology that made humans special. It was their incredible capacity for compassion and connection. Over the following hours, they documented the most extraordinary xenobiological discoveries in recorded history. Tommy taught the Vorthak simple games, which all three heads learned with obvious enjoyment. The creature demonstrated problem-solving abilities, artistic creativity, and complex emotional responses that indicated high intelligence. Most remarkably, when Tommy pretended to be sad during one interaction, the Vorthak responded with what could only be described as comfort behavior. Gentle vocalizations and careful positioning near the window as if trying to offer support. "The creature isn't just intelligent," Dr. Velana whispered into her recording device. "It's emotionally sophisticated. It understands and responds to the emotional states of other beings." As the day's sessions concluded, Commander Kextar found himself facing a complete paradigm shift. Their entire understanding of their homeworld's ecology was built on false assumptions. The creatures they feared might be potential allies waiting for someone to extend a hand in friendship. The Vorthak settled into its artistic arrangements for the night, occasionally vocalizing soft melodies. In the human quarters, Tommy fell asleep humming the same tunes, while his mother marveled at her son's natural gift for building bridges between worlds. Dr. Velana worked through the night, preparing the most important research proposal in Zephyrian history. If humans could help them understand Vorthax, perhaps other supposedly hostile species might also be misunderstood. The galaxy might be full of potential friends rather than inevitable enemies. The research station's crew watched recordings of the day's interactions, many seeing intelligence and beauty where they had previously seen only terror. The small human child had accomplished more in a few hours than centuries of military force and scientific study. As the station settled into its night cycle, both species dreamed of possibilities neither had imagined before. A future where understanding replaced fear and friendship bridged the vast distances between worlds. The emergency session of the Zephyrian High Council convened in the early hours of the station's artificial dawn. Holographic representatives from across their 3 inhabited worlds materialized around the ancient debate chamber, their bioluminescent patterns flickering with tension and anticipation. At the center of the assembly, Dr. Velana stood beside a data crystal containing 7 days of unprecedented research findings. "Honored counselors," she began, her voice steady despite the magnitude of what she was about to reveal. "We stand at the threshold of redefining our species' relationship not only with our home world, but with the galaxy itself." The recordings played in stunning clarity. Tommy's fearless approach, the Vorthax's gentle responses, the artistic creations, the musical communications, and most remarkably, the moment when the creature had exhibited what could only be called grief when the boy had to leave for sleep periods. High Counselor Axthon's ancient features creased with disbelief. "You're telling us that a single human child has accomplished what our greatest military minds could not, peaceful contact with our world's apex predator?" "More than contact, honored counselor. Partnership." Dr. Velana activated a 3-dimensional map of their homeworld. "Yesterday, at the child's suggestion, we transmitted the Vorthax musical communications to our surface monitoring stations. The response was immediate and system-wide. The holographic display erupted with activity as signals from across the planet's surface lit up in synchronized patterns. Every Vorthax territory responded to the transmitted songs. They're not random predators. They're a planetary communication network. Each pack maintains contact across continents through acoustic signals our equipment never recognized as language." The implications sent ripples of shocked silence through the council chamber. Counselor Zethara leaned forward, her 4 eyes wide with realization. "Our mining operations, we've been disrupting their conversations for decades." "Worse," Dr. Velana confirmed grimly. "We've been interrupting their songs with mechanical noise, destroying their art with our excavations, and responding to their attempts at communication with violence. To them, we must seem like barbarians attacking their civilization." The weight of this revelation settled over the assembly like a physical presence. Generations of their people had viewed Vorthax as mindless killers, when they were actually a sophisticated society trying to coexist with aggressive invaders. "How did the human child know?" demanded Counselor Vrextul. "How could their species recognize what ours could not?" Dr. Velana smiled, remembering Tommy's simple explanations. "Because humans don't see monsters where they look for friends. Their species evolved alongside predators, learning to distinguish between genuine threats and potential companions. More importantly, they possess something our culture has never developed: the assumption that other beings are fundamentally good until proven otherwise." She activated another display showing human historical records. "Their homeworld is filled with examples of their ancestors befriending creatures that could easily kill them. They've transformed wolves into loyal companions, turned massive beasts into working partners, and even established emotional bonds with ocean predators that could swallow them whole." But surely their military forces must, began another counselor. Show identical patterns, Dr. Vellana interrupted. I've studied their diplomatic records extensively. Humans consistently attempt peaceful contact before considering aggressive action. They possess warrior capabilities that exceed most galactic standards, but they view violence as a last resort rather than a first response. Ambassador Chen's voice echoed through the chamber as her transmission was activated. Honored council members, my son asked me to share something with you. Tommy said that your friend, he's been calling the Vorthak Harmony because of the three-part singing, isn't angry at your people. Harmony is lonely. The statement hung in the air like a revelation. The creature that had terrorized their expansion efforts for generations was lonely? The child believes that Vorthaks are social creatures who've been trying to communicate with us, Chen continued. They see our technology as we might view their artistic arrangements, attempts at conversation. When we respond with fear and weapons, it confuses and saddens them. Dr. Vellana nodded. Yesterday's experiments confirm this theory. When we played recordings of human laughter and children playing, every Vorthak in our database exhibited what can only be described as joy responses. They recognize the sounds of happiness and want to share in it. The council chamber buzzed with urgent conversations in a dozen regional dialects. High Counselor Axthon raised his ceremonial staff for silence. Dr. Vellana, what are your recommendations? A complete restructuring of our homeworld development policies, she replied without hesitation. Immediate cessation of all mining operations pending establishment of formal communication with Vorthak territorial groups. Cultural exchange programs with human specialists in interspecies diplomacy. And most critically, recognition of Vorthaks as co-inhabitants of our world rather than obstacles to our expansion. The boldness of her proposals would have been considered treasonous a week earlier. Now, faced with the evidence of human success where Zephyrian methods had failed for centuries, they seemed like obvious necessities. The humans have offered their assistance, Dr. Vellana continued. Their specialists in animal behavior and interspecies communication are prepared to help us establish formal diplomatic protocols with Vorthak society. Counselor Zethara's bioluminescent patches pulsed with curiosity. And in return? Nothing, Chen answered from her transmission. Humans help because helping is what we do. Tommy made a friend, and friends help each other solve problems. The concept of assistance without expected compensation was so foreign to standard galactic diplomatic norms that several counselors required translation clarification. The idea that an entire species might offer aid simply because it was the right thing to do challenged fundamental assumptions about interstellar relations. There's more, Dr. Vellana added, her excitement barely contained. Human research teams have identified similar patterns in 17 other documented hostile species across the galaxy. Creatures we've classified as monsters might actually be civilizations attempting communication with methods we don't understand. The scope of potential transformation expanded beyond their homeworld to encompass their entire understanding of galactic life. If humans were correct, the galaxy might be populated by thousands of species waiting for someone to approach them with empathy rather than fear. A priority alert interrupted the council session. On the main display, Tommy appeared in the station's observation deck, carefully placing his small hand against the barrier. On the other side, the Vorthak, Harmony, as the boy had named it, gently touched the same spot with the pad of its largest paw. He's teaching me to count in Harmony's language, Tommy explained to the amazed observers. Watch, each head can show different numbers so they can count really high using all three together. And they have a special song for each number that helps them remember mathematics. Dr. Vellana felt her world shift once again. The creatures they had feared were not only intelligent and artistic, they were mathematically sophisticated. Counselors, we may be witnessing first contact with a species that could advance our understanding of physics and engineering by centuries. The vote, when it came, was unanimous. The Zephyrian High Council officially recognized Vorthax as sentient beings deserving of diplomatic contact rather than military suppression. Mining operations would be suspended indefinitely pending establishment of proper communication protocols with the planet's original inhabitants. More significantly, the Council authorized the formation of the first human Zephyrian Cooperative Research Initiative, with Dr. Velana and Tommy serving as the primary liaison team between species. In the days that followed, the research station transformed into a hub of unprecedented interspecies cooperation. Human behavioral specialists worked alongside Zephyrian xenobiologists to decode Vorthac communication patterns. Military engineers collaborated with human architects to design facilities that complemented rather than disrupted the planet's acoustic communication networks. Tommy became something of a celebrity, though he remained focused on his friendship with Harmony. The boy spent hours each day teaching the Vorthac human games while learning increasingly complex mathematical concepts that challenged the station's most advanced computers. He's explaining quantum physics using musical harmonies, Dr. Velana reported to the daily research briefing. The three-head system allows them to conceptualize mathematical relationships our single brain structure finds difficult to grasp. The breakthrough came when Harmony successfully taught Tommy to solve a calculus problem using vocal frequencies. The boy's excited laughter as he understood the concept prompted every Vorthac on the planet to respond with harmonic celebrations that could be heard from orbit. Ambassador Chen watched her son's interactions with pride and amazement. Tommy asked me yesterday if Harmony could visit other worlds and meet more humans. He wants to introduce his friend to his classmates back on Earth. The idea of Vorthacs as interstellar ambassadors would have been unthinkable weeks earlier. Now it seemed like a natural progression of the friendship that had begun with a fearless child and a lonely creature seeking connection across the void of space. As the research station prepared for the arrival of human specialists and Zephyrian diplomats, Tommy and Harmony continued their daily conversations through the barrier that was becoming less necessary with each passing day. The boy had taught the creature to recognize dozens of human words, while Harmony had shared mathematical concepts that were revolutionizing several fields of Zephyrian science. "You know what I think?" Tommy said during one afternoon session, his hand pressed against the barrier while Harmony's three heads listened intently. "I think the galaxy is full of friends we just haven't met yet. People just need to stop being scared long enough to say hello." Dr. Velana carefully recorded the child's words, recognizing them as perhaps the most profound diplomatic philosophy she had ever encountered. The idea that first contact protocols should begin with friendship rather than defense strategies could transform how every species approached galactic exploration. The research station's final transmission of the day carried a simple message across the galactic communication network. Humanity teaches us that the universe is not a dangerous place full of monsters, but a vast neighborhood full of potential friends waiting for someone brave enough to extend a hand in greeting. In response, the Vorthacs of their homeworld sang their evening songs a little louder, their harmonies carrying new notes of hope and welcome that echoed across the stars. And in the observation deck, a small human boy hummed along, dreaming of all the friends he had yet to meet among the infinite wonders of space.